After Facebook, we're here at the governor's conference room where they've called a news conference, and the fate of the recreational marijuana bill could or should be decided today. You can feel the little bit of tension in the room. There are representatives from both the pro and the con sides. We don't know at this point what the governor is going to do. She had until April 9th, which is next week Tuesday, to actually make the final decision or let it lapse into law without her signature. She has decided to call a news conference, and we anticipate that she will be announcing what she's going to do. Will the recreational marijuana bill pass, or will she veto it? If she vetoes it, it will require 10 votes of the legislature. That bill passed by a very narrow 8-7 margin. So I see representatives here from the church. I see representatives here from the advocates of the marijuana group. And so we are standing by, and we ask that you stand by here on KOM to also see what the fate of the recreational marijuana bill is.
Well, this is scheduled to start at 12 noon, so. Are you on Facebook Live? Yeah. For Facebook, just in general? We're on Facebook Live right now?
Yeah, we're doing a viewership.
Right. Okay.
All right. Where am I looking at? You? Okay. Facebook. We're here with Crystal Paco, spokesperson for the governor. So, Crystal, give us an idea of why the governor decided to call the news conference today.
Well, like I mentioned in our media advisory, we are going to be addressing Bill 32. Again, very interesting, very divided. It has the community very divided. As you were here last week, you saw we were aware that protesters were going to be coming out and making a demonstration, rather making a peaceful demonstration. So we actually accommodated them. We put out canopies on our lawn, one for each of the parties, and then we also gave them 30 minutes of her time, again, in this conference room, in undivided attention. You know, she was very... she was open ears. You know, she wanted to hear each party and their position, their arguments. She wanted to give them her undivided attention. Again, as she was talking to them, and then when she closed out her meetings with them, the respective groups, she said, you know, I'm going to read this bill on my own, take note of all the amendments that did happen on session floor, and decide for myself. That's what basically she said. And again, she has until April 10 to act.
Yeah. Like I say, she's been very transparent. She took comments from both sides, spent what was originally supposed to be 30 minutes, but I think she took
Yes,
longer for
most
each
definitely.
group. Can you give us an idea of how she's been kind of dealing with this, how she's been trying to understand and come at her decision? Has she spent a lot of time personally? She's set aside. Give us an idea of what her thought pattern has been.
Most definitely, and like I said last week, she wanted to give undivided attention to both opponents and proponents. The community, again, is very divided on this issue. There's a lot of concerns, I understand. You and I, we both sat in both sessions, and very compelling arguments made on both sides. So I can tell you, she's definitely thinking hard and thinking well about the implications of Bill 32.
Yeah, this is a pretty substantial piece of legislation. It will have ramifications if it does pass for many, many years to come. Is this something that she has been trying to? Has she reached out to a lot of people to talk about this,
Almost
or is
definitely.
it something that she's just kind of?
She's listened to all the different groups, and she's had meetings with them, and she's very concerned about all the different positions, and again, the implications of what not doing, taking any action, and taking action would mean.
Okay. And you're not prepared at this point to say which way she's
I cannot
going?
say at this point. Again, she's just moments out. We'll find out. Again, cannabis has been a long debated topic on the island.
Okay, but she's definitely going to take some form of action today.
Possibly.
Okay. All right, there you have it. Thank you, Crystal Paco, spokesperson for the governor. And as Crystal was saying, she's not at liberty at this particular point to say which way the governor is going to go on this legislation. But we'll find out, I guess, in a few minutes. The governor is getting ready to come into the Adloop conference room. You can see here, if you spin it around there, Ash, you can see that all the cameras are set up. The camera folks are here. We've got people in the audience here that are getting ready to listen to what the governor has to say. And I see Dr. Ron McNinch. Would you like to come up and answer a few questions, Dr. McNinch? Thank you. Appreciate it. So, Dr. McNinch, what brings you here today?
Oh, I love seeing democracy in action.
And can you explain what your position has been on recreational marijuana?
Well, I think that in general, there's a federal policy, and either the federal policy is going to hold or not. And I think that this is something that just needs more discussion.
What is your expectation for the governor to do?
She's going to make a very hard choice today, and people on either side are not going to be very happy. But I'm sure that she will make a choice that will be in the best interest for what she believes is the general community. Even if people are upset about her decision, I think she's going to try to decide for the best for everybody.
Yeah. From a historical context, how big of a decision do you think this is?
Well, to come this early after her election is a big deal. And it's a very important decision. And there's a lot of people who've not been consulted in the community on this issue, particularly parents. I hear parents talk to me about this all the time. And so that's one of the reasons I'm kind of concerned about it.
And if you were to venture a guess, what do you think she's going to do?
I think the most rational or pragmatic thing that she could do would be there are issues within the current bill, veto it, list those issues, and let the legislature resolve those issues and send the bill back up.
Okay. That's Ron McNinch, a professor at the University of Guam, giving us his thoughts on what the recreational marijuana bill means to him. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay. We're going to take a short break. I'm going to try to see if I can get someone from the other side, and we'll be right back. This is Kevin Kerrigan. What I'm doing.
I don't know what's going to happen.
You want to do an interview? Okay. Any pros over here? Any pro? Mayor? Okay. Nestor LeConte.
Hannah Rivers.
Oh, hi. Nice to meet you.
Department of Labor.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just here to see what they say about employment.
Oh, nice to meet you, Hannah.
Nice to meet you too.
Okay, it's okay. What are you doing over? Sorry? I don't have a KUAM card. I have a card from, let's see, I have my generic card.
Okay, I'll take that. I know I just started at DOL, so I don't have my card
okay.
yet, but
Yeah, Dave does soda, and I go way back.
oh
So
really?
He's a good friend of mine. So
Awesome.
I understand he's off island right now.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. So I'm here just. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Sure. You want me to do this on camera? Okay. All right, half a day Facebook as we're still waiting here for the governor. Just wanted to go over some of the highlights of the bill that is currently under consideration. As you know, this is the adult recreational marijuana use bill. The bill by Senator Clint Ridgell would legalize adult use marijuana. Some of the provisions: you must be 21 and older. There is a ban on public consumption unless permitted by the Cannabis Control Board. I should mention that the Cannabis Control Board will be a very, very important part of this whole legalization if it's signed into law, of course. Personal cultivation can only occur in a private residence. There is a 6-plant limit. Cannabis establishments are prohibited from being located within 1,000 feet from any public or private school, child care center, public playground, and park. The Cannabis Control Board, as I mentioned, establishes the rules and regulations. There will be 9 members, 1 from the Department of Revenue and Taxation, 1 from the Department of Agriculture, 1 from the Department of Public Health and Social Services, 1 from the Guam Behavioral Wellness Center, 1 from GVB, 1 from the Police Department, 1 from the business community, and 2 from the general public, and 1 person representing the general public must possess a medical cannabis card. Someone asked about taxes. Every cannabis cultivation facility, there will be a 15% excise tax imposed, and 50% of all taxes collected will go to the following: 25% to public health, another 25%, 15% to GPD, 15% to Customs, 20% to DRT, and 40% to the Guam Behavioral and Wellness Center, and 10% to the Department of Agriculture's Conservation Officer Law Enforcement Section. A baseline data study must be conducted prior to enactment of the rules and regulations, and that would measure public safety and public health issues related to cannabis use, and this must be performed annually. And the Guam Visitors Bureau shall issue an RFP, a request for proposal, for an independent economic impact study to be conducted not less than 90 days from the effective date of the Act. The study is relative to the legalization of cannabis for adult use in Guam, and Guam joins only 10 U.S. states that have legalized recreational use marijuana. Those states are Washington, Oregon, Nevada, California, Alaska, Colorado, Michigan, Vermont, Maine, and Massachusetts. So once again, Guam would become the 11th entity within the United States. Along with 10 states, Guam would be the first territory to legalize recreational use marijuana. So we're here, as I mentioned earlier, at the governor's main conference room, still waiting on the governor. She's expected to make an announcement about her decision on the recreational or adult use marijuana bill. We spoke earlier to her spokesperson, Crystal Paco, former colleague of ours here at KOAM, and she was not able to tell us, of course, what the governor's decision is going to be, but she did suggest that some announcement will be made today with regard to the adult use cannabis bill. So there's a bunch of folks here that are anxiously waiting to find out what the governor's going to decide. There are representatives from both sides of the issue. It has been, admittedly, a very divided issue. So representatives from both pro and con are here. Last week they did meet with the governor. She spent more than a half an hour with representatives from each group to hear what they had to say. But at the end of the day, the decision is hers. And it's a big one. Governor Leon Guerrero, of course, is our first female governor, our Magathaga. And according to Crystal, and she's shown that she's taken quite a bit of time to mull over her decision. Actually, she does have until next week, Tuesday, I believe, to make the decision, but they announced earlier today that they would call a news conference at noon, which is just a little past noon now, and she would be making an announcement regarding the recreational or adult use marijuana bill. So we're here waiting anxiously to hear what the governor has to say. Please stay tuned to KOAM on Facebook, and we'll have the live coverage for you. And keep those questions coming. We'll see if we can get to some of them. I'm here with Ken Nicholas and Asha Robles, by the way. They're manning our digital team.
Someone's asking if the education I see is anything for tax of marijuana. That's
Not on the list currently. The entities that will be receiving funding from the excise taxes are public health, GPD, customs, revenue and taxation, the Guam Behavioral and Wellness Center, that's the former mental health department, and the Department of Agriculture's Conservation Officer Law Enforcement section. So a short answer to that, Ken, is no. At this point, the Department of Education is not among the entities that will be receiving any of the proceeds of the excise tax on any cannabis cultivation facility.
We are all waiting myself.
Carlo. Carlo, you want to say anything?
Hell no.
He's being interviewed right now. So. Okay, they opened the door, and I think the governor is on her way down from the stairs, so we should be hearing from her any second now.
Great.
So when that door opens, we expect to see the governor walk through, and yeah, you can kind of feel the anticipation here in the room. All of the cameras, and I think I'm in the way of some, are focused on that door. So we'll wait and see when she walks in.
Please rise for our Honorable Nagahaga Leon Guerrero as well as Lieutenant Governor Josh Tamari.
Half a day and good afternoon. There has been extensive public discussion, both on the floor of the Guam legislature in public hearings and recently while Governor Leon Guerrero has been making her deliberations on Bill number 32. Governor Leon Guerrero has made a decision. She has acted, and so allow me to introduce the governor to announce her actions to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. And good afternoon and welcome to our chambers here. And I'd like to also welcome the senators and the speaker that are present here today. I'd like to take this opportunity to announce that I have made a decision regarding Bill 32. I have decided to sign the Bill 32 into law. My decision was made with open mind and with tremendous earnest debates, discussions, conversations, advice by doctors, nurses, lawyers, social workers, law enforcement agents, mothers, fathers, religious leaders, our youth, our manunko, our senators, family, and friends. I listened intensely to the opponents of the bill and to the proponents of the bill. At the end of the day, I had to answer this one question. Given all the information, the studies done, experiences shared, advice, anecdotes about marijuana, what would a responsible community government leader do to protect the interests and welfare of the community? We must regulate this illicit drug that is the most widely used drug in our society. We have to take it and control it, monitor its use and its effects, benefit from its medicinal efforts, allow our people to live in a safer environment. Keeping it illegal, in my mind, rejects the notion that it exists and that the underground market will continue to prey on us. We have to be ahead of this, and we have to control it. One observation I did make after all this effort is that we all agree, the community as a whole, about the positive medicinal effects of cannabis and the good it has done for those in pain and suffering from cancer, PTSD, debilitating neurogenic events. This being the case, let's take this and turn it into a regulated and controlled access. Nothing changes in the protection of our children as we remain responsible parents and responsible adults. In fact, this bill will strengthen it by more directed regulations. Nothing changes in the policies of our workplace as responsible businesses and agencies. We must continue to enforce zero tolerance of substance abuse in the workplace. Use of cannabis is now very clear that it cannot be used in public places. Many of the regulations mimic that we have for legal alcohol and tobacco. I so appreciate the hard work of our senators in their deliberation of Bill 32. I especially want to thank Senator Clint Rigel and the sponsors of the bill, Speaker Tina Muñoz-Barnes, Senator Joe San Augustine, Senator Regine Bisco-Lee, Senator Tello Taitagui, and Senator Luis Muñoz and Senator Kelly Marsh Taitano. Their courage and their superb and thorough research on this topic is amazing. I'd like to just say that as a community, we need to work together to further decrease the abuse of other drugs and to make sure that we continue to work towards a protected and safer environment. Thank you very much for your presence, and we are open to taking questions, but I'd like to have The speakers say a few words, and then Senator Clint Ridgell.
Si Diyos, Masi, Magahaga, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to be with you here today to witness this presentation for our people of Guam. And I want to share with you, as a proponent and the author of the medicinal cannabis, and having our people vote so that those who are truly suffering from debilitating health issues will finally get the true access that they need. This is even a better step forward. And I just want to take the time to thank my colleagues and the author of the legislation for truly stepping up to the plate, following through on his plan to make this program work for our community, and just making sure that those that need it the most as an alternative to work with debilitating health issues and what the people voted for, that they will soon see it come to full fruition. So thank you again, Governor, for your presentation this morning, Lieutenant Governor, to the senators and just everybody here.
I think I'd like to also now invite the author of the bill, Senator Clint Ridgell.
Thank you, Madam Governor. First of all, I want to thank all of my colleagues who supported me in this measure, as the governor said earlier, and of course, thank you to the governor for believing in this measure. I know it's a difficult decision to make, and I know there was a lot of discussion in the community about it, but ultimately, I think this is the best decision for the island, so I thank the governor and all my colleagues from the bottom of my heart for seeing this vision that I believe Guam can achieve in the future. And this is something that I campaigned on. It's not something that I shied away from. It's something that I stood up in defense of, and I will continue to stand up in defense of it. I know that we can make Guam a better place, and I believe that this is a step in the correct direction. Thank you very much.
So are there any questions from the audience? And I invite the senators and also my Lieutenant Governor to also,
Governor, can you tell us, what do you say to the opponents now that you have signed this bill?
I say to the opponents that I appreciate their concerns. And their concerns are also my concerns. A lot of their concerns were safety and increased access to children. They also had concerns about the workplace. Basically, it's the increased access of cannabis to now children and the public. Their concern is increased use of the cannabis in the youth. And they just feel that it would increase social ills in our community.
How can you reassure them that those concerns will be overcome?
So the concerns will be overcome by the support of this legislation, by putting in the controls that are there, and to always constantly educate and make our people aware of cannabis, make people aware of what you can do, what you cannot do. It is very clear in this piece of legislation that you cannot use it in public places.
Governor, I got two questions here. With respect to what you're talking about now in the children, who do you think bears the sole responsibility for the children? Would it be the government's role to shape that, or the parents?
I say it's the parents' role, and the government is there to assist and provide resources maybe that we can to help the parents. But parents can never abandon their responsibility in protecting children and the safety of our children. And nothing in this bill, now law, changes that. You know, it I think strengthens more the controls. And now that we have it up in the away from the black market industry, away from dealers that are predators to our children. We can better monitor it, we can better control it, we can provide more strengthening to legislation. You know, as we experience it and move forward in time, we'll be able to look at what's going on. And you know, in my reading and my research, I looked back and read other states and what their experience is and what the results they are seeing in the last 6-7 years that they've had cannabis legalization of adult use and also medicinal. And the research shows that there's a decrease in opiate addiction by 25%. There's no increase in youth use. There's a decrease in domestic violence. There's monitoring of it. They can then get more results and learn more from it. So we don't have the experience, we don't have the history. So as a prudent person, where do we go to? We go to those states that have the history and have the experience to look at, to guide us, for me, to guide me in my decision. In terms of social ills to the community, you know, we need to monitor that. And we need to work with law enforcement people with that. We need to work with our religious leaders for that. We need to work with our teachers in the schools for that. It's a community-wide campaign. But my basic thing is, we as a government need to get ahead of it. It cannot be the one controlling us. We need to get ahead of it and control it.
This is not going to happen overnight. Can we get Senator
Governor, can you give us
Rangel?
some insight
Excuse
into
me, Lester, go ahead.
your thought process, and was there any particular issue or concern that swayed your vote?
Both, like I said, opponents and proponents had good issues and good information. The biggest thing that swayed me is what is for the best interest of our community and our public. The biggest thing that swayed me is how, as a governor, leader in this community, should I decide to make sure that I am comfortable and confident that we are protecting the community and we're providing a safer environment. That was the bottom line.
Governor, not going to happen
Talked about getting ahead
overnight.
of things at the
Can we
federal
get
government.
Senator
Excuse me.
Rangel to
Heidi,
explain what
Heidi,
happens from this point
Kevin.
forward?
Sure. Can I get the question
Can we
from
get the
Heidi?
question from
I
Heidi
will.
first? Thank
Also,
you, Kevin.
can you appoint members?
Right away.
You have 9 names already in mind?
There are not, well, a lot of it is already decided by law, so you have to have a director from the chief of the police, agriculture, behavioral health, DRT, is GBB? Yeah, so it's in the law, there's 9, and then one has to be appointed who already has a medicinal cannabis registration, and then one from the public.
Do you have any names yet?
No.
Governor, with
I have names in my mind, but I don't have it yet.
Okay, Julius.
Governor, earlier you talked about getting ahead of things, and you also mentioned the states that you were looking at as far as guidance in making the decision. With respect to the states and their dealings with the federal government, what will you do if this goes to court based on the fact that this does not comply with federal statute?
Well, you know, we would argue it in court, absolutely.
What do you think your strongest argument would be at this point?
My strongest argument would be we have local law and that the federal government now needs to respect local law, just as there are just as the same as the other states. And so, you know, I'm also tracking the federal government because there are a number of legislation that has already been introduced moving forward to legalize cannabis. And the future of this, I think, is that the federal government will make it legal. And the reason for this, my thinking, is there are already 32 states that have medicinal cannabis. There are already 10 states that have adult use of cannabis. That's the trend that's happening. People are seeing, like I said, that this is an illicit drug that's used throughout the whole United States and even here in our island, and we need to recognize that, and we need to make that come forward. So like I said, we can control, we're aware of it, we know what to do. And so that's what I think would happen. And I know the federal government is respecting a lot of the state laws now. There's a safe banking law that's going forward because communities now need to deposit their money, and it's really not safe to have a lot of cash around. And so government municipalities are already thinking about forming their own bank that's not FDIC regulated, so they can provide the services to these businesses that are flourishing throughout the United States. And so, I think the writing on the wall is there as different entities are looking at ways to legalize it and make it a lot safer.
Jackie?
Wait, Kevin
Yeah,
wanted
can we
Clint
get,
to.
Senator Ruggiero, walk us through
Yeah,
the
that-
steps before full implementation. This is not gonna happen overnight, we know. So what happens next?
Yeah, so the governor has to impanel a cannabis control board, and then that cannabis control board will have up to a year to draft rules and regulations. Those rules and regulations will be subject to the AAA process. Part of the AAA process requires that those rules and regulations are submitted to the legislature. The legislature will then have 90 days to either act on it, amend it, change it, accept it, reject it, or let it lapse. So there is still a lot of work ahead.
A year before we see cannabis products on sale? How long do you think?
That would be, it depends on how quick they're able to act. So it could be less, but the maximum they're allowed by the law is a year to develop the rules and regulations.
Senator, can I ask, in terms of the timing of all of this, have you taken steps to kind of help expedite the process?
Which process?
As far as like promulgating the rules and regulations?
No, that's not my job. It's now an executive function, so it lies in the hands of the executive branch to execute the law.
What are the implications for the medicinal marijuana? The medicinal marijuana.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Jackie.
Can you just address the community that's concerned about how this is going to affect Guam's image as a family-friendly tourist destination?
Sure, that's been brought up a lot of times, and I don't believe it affects that image of a family-friendly destination. We have alcohol everywhere on the island, and alcohol is not always friendly to families. Alcohol leads to a lot of violence and other things, and in fact, the data shows that cannabis tends to lead to less violence. In fact, in the state of Washington, there was a reduction in violent crimes after they legalized cannabis, and so I don't think it affects that. And I hate to say it, but if you look at Tumon, there's a lot of non-family friendly businesses there if you want to talk about family friendly.
Nestor, go ahead.
Yeah. What do you think are the implications, this for both you, Senator Virgil, and the governor, what do you think are the implications for the medicinal marijuana? That passed overwhelmingly in referendum. This one went through legislation, no vote by the people. Are there any implications for the medicinal marijuana law and your law that was just signed by the governor?
I think this strengthens it. I think it allows medicinal marijuana to actually take effect. I think it'll allow for more investors to come in and invest in the island because it's now a larger market as opposed to a smaller market with the medicinal market. So I think it absolutely opens it up and makes it easier for people to get safe access to medicine. And it'll allow people to, there's been a lot of doctors who've been reluctant to sign certifications for patients for various reasons. I believe some of the reasons are perhaps that, I don't want to guess what the reasons are, but there's a lot of reasons for why they don't, so it's difficult for patients to get it. There's very few doctors that are willing to do it. So this will allow patients to be able to get it on their own without having to go through the stigma of going to a doctor. Also, this, the hardship of standing in line at public health to get all the paperwork filled out. It's a long process. And so this makes it easier for people to be able to go get it. Just like you can go to the store right now and buy Tylenol over the counter, which by the way, you can overdose on Tylenol over the counter.
Senator, what do you say to all of those who supported you and the other senators here in steps to get to where we're at now, setting this benchmark?
Oh, just I absolutely thank everyone from the bottom of my heart, and I'm looking forward to working with everyone in the community at large on ensuring that this happens.
Clint, is it necessary for a testing laboratory to be up and running
Yes.
before cannabis products?
Yes.
take it? So
Yes.
what's the process for ensuring that a testing laboratory is built and staffed?
Well, that's in the law and the rules and regs. They'll have to be able to stand that up before they can go forward.
But there will have to be a
Yes.
testing laboratory.
Yes.
Yes.
One more question.
Oh, if members of the public have questions about this law, its impact, who should they address these questions to? Your office or the governor's office or the board, which is still not, formed?
Well, we're going to provide some educational material of the do's and don'ts, and also so that the public can understand this legislation. We're going to be doing PSAs, but yes, you can direct it to our chamber, and also, well,
I'll help.
We'll help.
You can send your follow-up questions. Okay, thank you very much.
thank you very much. I think this is a policy that we can really work together on and make sure that we as a community again unite with making sure we protect and provide continued safety to our people.
Thank you.
And it is Public Law 35-5.
I'll send you guys all a copy of
So there you have it. The adult use recreational marijuana bill is now law, signed into law by the governor. Let me see if I can get the author of the bill, Senator Clint Ridgell, to speak to us for a moment. Yeah. Madam Speaker, if you want to join us too? Senator Rizal? Sure. Congratulations, you got your bill through. Tell us a little bit about what your reaction is to the governor signing it.
I'm elated, of course. I'm extremely happy. So yes, I thank her so much, and I'm happy that she saw that this is something that is the best decision for the people of Guam.
And Madam Speaker, you were the author of a medicinal marijuana bill back in a couple of legislatures ago. What's your reaction?
I want to say that I'm not just appreciative. I'm very elated because our Magahaga took the brave step and the bold step in standing in front of the issue and not behind the issue. But more importantly, the people of Guam, through a mandate, voted for medicinal cannabis. If that bill wasn't signed today, this November would be 5 years that medicinal cannabis is not implemented. The access for our medical patients to work with that alternative if they so choose, suffering from debilitating health issues, that access needs to be there. And there has been so much frustration. And I just want to thank everybody. I want to thank those who bravely helped keep this story alive. And I want to thank the author, Senator Ridgell, for following through on his campaign to say that he was going to help make this happen. For all the right reasons.
It kind of begs the question, had the medicinal marijuana law been implemented fully by the government, would we be at this point where there would need to be, or the question of having an adult use law? Yeah, can you?
Had the medicinal cannabis been fully implemented, I would say 99% I would never have introduced this bill.
And so looking back, Madam Speaker, why didn't it? Why wasn't it fully implemented? And is that a regret on your part at this point?
Why it wasn't implemented, it was something that the previous administration would have to answer for. The frustration of getting all the key players in place and having the facilitation of doing the rules and regs and bringing it down, and the lack of the excuses that were brought up time and time again. I made a commitment on the same campaign trail to saying that there were issues, revenue enhancement legislations that have been passed some passed by the people and still not implemented today. That was my journey moving to run for the 35th Guam legislature, is to make sure that the implementation by our people, that it be implemented for sure. And I want to again thank the governor and the lieutenant governor for taking that bold step and staying in front of the issue and not from behind.
One of the reasons, Senator Rigel, that you have mentioned in the past is that under the medicinal marijuana law, there was not enough scale in order for investors to come in and start businesses. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, that was one of the issues I heard from different people who were talking about investing and people that were talking potentially about opening businesses. Is they said that that was a major drawback from numerous business people I've spoken to, is that the market was small and the investment for a laboratory is significant.
So where do we go from here? I mean, do you expect this to be, I guess most people who are pro, adult use marijuana are asking, okay, when can this actually be implemented? Do you have like a time frame in your mind?
So as I was saying earlier, it's basically the law requires that the governor impanel a cannabis control board. That cannabis control board will have up to a year to develop rules and regulations. Hopefully they can do it sooner than a year, but they have a year by law to develop those rules and regulations. Then it goes back to the legislature for one final pass through, I guess. And then from there, hopefully businesses can start being stood up soon.
This has been a very divisive issue. There have been very strong opponents, both pro and con. Now that it's signed into law, now that it's law, how do we bring the community together?
I think continued education, continued awareness, and making sure that when bills become laws, there's always room for revisions or enhancements to make it better for our community, and that's how the process works. And I'm just grateful that my colleagues, we respect the fact that we can agree to disagree, but moving forward, this was something that a lot in our community supported to see this program come to full fruition.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Congratulations. Thank you. Madam Speaker, there you have it. Senator Clint Rigel, author of the bill, and Speaker Tina Munoz Barnes, who also authored a medicinal marijuana bill back a couple of legislatures ago. That'll do it for us from here, the Adelup Conference Room. Once again, if you weren't watching, the governor has signed the adult use recreational cannabis bill into law. And as you just heard Senator Rigel say, it'll take about a year or so before full implementation takes effect. Nestor LeConte reporting. See you, Facebook.